Alright, so in this short video, what we're going to do is construct a box and whisker display, also called a box plot, based on the data that was already provided on your sheet. So I have it all listed here. So these were the 8 bowling scores that we are analyzing here. And we have already calculated that the low is 132, Q1 is 159.5. So just to review how we got Q1, Q1 is essentially the median of the lower half of the data, which means the first 4 values. And 159.5 being the median of the first 4 values means it's the average of those two. And median is 191, halfway between 190 and 192. And Q3 is the median of the upper half, which would mean the number that's right in the middle of those two. And then the high is 220. So to construct the box and whisker plot, we use this 5-number display. So remember that that's what this is called. So here's what I do. So you notice I have a number line drawn here. And it is scaling is important because we want to make sure we don't distort any aspects of the graph. I just make a dot. I put all 5 dots in a straight horizontal line that corresponds to the 5-number display. So 132 is one of the points. I'm going to put a point about right there. 159.5 is one of the points, so that's just shy of the 160. 191 is the median. So that's about right there at 190, just a smidge over. 198.5 is just below the 200, and 220 is right here. So I have those 5 points in a line. Now that's not the whole display. We need a box. So here's what happens. So the middle half gets a rectangle around it. So the middle half meaning between here and here. So the middle half gets a box around it. And then the whiskers come from going from the right edge of the box to the end, and the left end of the box to that end, to the low. And then last but not least, we draw a vertical line through here. So this right here is the median. This value here is Q3. This is the high. This is the low. And this is Q1. So this display, believe it or not, tells us a lot of wealthy information here. Notice that this 25% of the data, so each quartile is 25%, right? And this right here is 25% of the data. You know, this part of the rectangle here, I'll actually shade that in here. Those parts both represent 25% of the data. In fact, all of these parts do. So I'm just going to write 25%, 25%. So this display tells us how the variation occurs as we go from lowest to high value. So you notice that this 25%, those two values, I guess you could say, has the least amount of variation. And if I had to look at this, I would say that this 25% had the most variation. Now that's because they each represent 1/4 of the data. So the 1/4 of the data that is spread the most would have the most variation, and the 1/4 of the data that is spread the least has the least variation. So I guess what you could call is, so between, so what were those numbers? 159.5 and 191, most variation. And between 191.5 and 198.5, I'm sorry, not 191.5, just plain old 191. And while we could just find the difference between upper and lower for each of those parts, that is one effective way to tell which one is varying the most, but the picture actually tells us a whole lot more. So, and if you're just finding the difference, so this difference here would be 31.5, and this difference here would be 7.5. So what we're saying is the area with the least variation only spreads apart 7.5 units, or in this case, 7.5 points, because we're talking about bowling scores. So all of that information comes out of one box and whisker plot. So what we're going to do in another video is we're going to take some data, we're going to find the 5-number display, we'll plot the box and whisker plot, and we'll start to answer some other questions there. So hopefully this gets you started. This is how to construct a box and whisker display. Thank you for watching.